Blankes occurred with that.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Last Word with Naya podcast. So today, I have a wonderful person that I want to share the world with, share him with you guys, and share him with the world. You guys know what I was saying. So this is Steve Durand. Steve, you can introduce yourself a little bit and a little bit about you and what you do.
Sure. I'm happy to be on your podcast, Naya. This is great. I live up in Canada in Western Quebec, and I moved here like 10 years ago. I found this huge chunk of virgin forest that's just absolutely beautiful, hundreds of acres, and I changed my whole life. I was basically so moved by the land. I had an epiphany and I said, I'm out. I quit everything. I moved. I was living in the States at the time. I moved up here, moved into this old log house off grid, and just started a mad adventure, which a few years into it began my whole journey with these amazing ancient ruins that I found all over the place and been researching now for 6 years or so.
Yeah. So, a little bit about how we connected. I had done a podcast previously with Mike Collins of the Wandering Wolf podcast. And then, just by happenstance, Steve and I connected, and I was like, Canadian ruins. And I started looking at his page. And I'll put all the links and everything like that below us while we're doing this, guys, so you can look him up and later in the comments so that you can find his website. And yeah, you do tours and everything of your land as well, don't you?
I do, yeah. I've welcomed many people here over the years. I came here and I started wondering what to do with this huge wilderness. I wanted to first protect it, and then it came pretty quick to realize that I needed to protect it by sharing it. So I built a few cabins, and that was sort of my main model. But it's grown into so much more, including giving tours of these colossal stoneworks and monuments that are all over not only my land but this whole area of West Quebec. I'm finding them absolutely everywhere, and yeah, shout out to Mike for I think it was like he shared one of my reels actually, and I think he
Oh,
might
yeah.
have started following, or we found each other somewhere through that. Anyway, Mike's an awesome dude, and so yeah, thank you. And uh, yeah, I've been doing tours now for about 3 years. The first 3 years, I was just trying to wrap my head around what these things were.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
no context in this area, so I started making YouTube videos basically, and then I connected with a whole bunch of people and realized, well, these have been studied for years and years, decades, but mostly through New England,
Right.
Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New York, Pennsylvania. Those are the main areas where people have been looking at these stone ruins, and they've just not been taken seriously because A, they don't fit into a timeline of the
Exactly.
peopling of the
Right.
Americas. They're not supposed to be there. And B, they were easily discounted as like farmers, the early colonial farmers. They're called anything from like clearing piles, when they clear their peels, they throw
Right.
fields, they throw them in a pile, to property walls, to markers, to even, I've heard a bunch of people say, because none of those explanations make sense, because these are monuments, sculptures, like
Yeah.
artworks with no logical sense. People say, oh, those farmers, they were tricksters. They just play jokes on each other and build like, 20-ton structures to play jokes on each other in the woods. Anyway, none of it makes any sense. And the more I looked, the more I found, the more I researched, the more I put together my own theories and ideas, the more it just made absolutely no sense that it was the farmers that in this area were only here 200 years. But they also weren't the indigenous people of the area, from what we know based on their culture. They here it was the Algonquins, the
Right.
nation, and I reached out to them first. I have had a bunch of different representatives from them here, and yeah, they're as amazed as I am. It seems. They were more nomadic people. They didn't build these colossal
Right.
stone sites, that terraform entire mountains. Um,
Exactly.
so this is what I've been coming to realize, and I got to say, getting more and more into it. It's maybe an obsession now, but that's all I want to do is just be part of this conversation, find more, and share everything I know.
Yeah. Yeah. When I started seeing these structures that you've been exploring and taking pictures of, I was just blown away. And then you telling me the story of how you came up to view this land and it spoke to you. And I was telling you how I was like, that's because you were the guy that was meant to find it. Like that was meant to be. And you know how the universe and God speaks to you in different ways. And that was that calling. Like the land wanted to be found, I think. And I think it's time for things like this to really start coming out. And you know, the truth, it's the age of truth. And I think, things are really going to start coming out and they need to. And if I can be a part of that, I definitely want to be. So, uh, yeah,
Well,
these ruins you're showing me, it definitely wasn't the Native Americans. And obviously it wasn't the farmers. Like, why would they spend their time doing this for a trick? Like, what sense does that make,
yeah, yeah. There's just too many things that set these apart from basically everything we know. Um, and yeah, yeah. I certainly feel like it was not a logical decision for me to come here. I had a pretty nice career in music. My whole life I've been in music, touring, writing, producing. I was running a studio in upstate New York, and everything was great. And then, I came to this land, and I left it all behind. I was just so moved by the forest, and its proximity to Ottawa. There's a lot of logging around here, and I just thought, man, this has got to be protected. And but yeah, there was something beyond that. As soon as I was on that hill, and by the way, that was the hill where all of the ancient
Yeah,
monuments were surrounding me. I didn't even know at the time, but I was just in the
right.
middle of this hill, and I'm like, I turned to my girlfriend at the time and I said, I'm buying this, and it was just like And then I became obsessed for the next month. Like, how do I make this happen and sell my house? And anyway, I ended up here a month later, living in this very house, and the big adventure started. So, yeah, was I called here? I believe that the universe definitely works in some pretty magical ways, and the series of synchronicities and coincidences and mad magic that I've experienced since I've moved here would definitely make me think that there's a reason that I'm here. Beyond. I don't know. It has something to do with these ruins, and I truly believe that they need to be brought to light. I think there's something very important in learning about them, and I think that it could be a significant puzzle piece in this great story we're trying to figure out about the truth of our collective past. It's clearly not what we've been taught, but it has something to do more along the lines of a much older history, a more advanced and cohesive history, and a more globally connected history. And I think that this culture, who's dotted the landscape with these monuments, are a big part of it. really big. So I feel just blessed to be a part of it, and yeah, and to be here talking to you, and the good people we know in common. You know, it's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Yeah. It blows my mind every time, like, talking to people like you and Mike and others on that journey, that the I think it always kind of shocks me a little bit. I mean, I'm not surprised, but I am, like, just the pushback, and absolute, like, wall that they put up to keep this timeline,
Yeah,
to really say, no, that can't be anything older. And it's like, well, clearly it is, and we don't have answers, but why not explore it further? Like, what's the harm in exploring it further and doing the work if it's only going to help humanity. I don't.
absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And it always surprises me as well how strong the pushback is, and how they keep on, how I still try to wrap my head around why it's so uncomfortable
Mhm.
to, to update the science. It happens in science all the time, right? It happens in all of the scientific disciplines. You're always looking for new theories, new revelations, new findings, and you are rewriting textbooks and the history books, and all of that, or at least you should be. I mean, that
Right,
is the
exactly.
empirical method, right? So, but then there is this pushback in archaeology. Well, I think in part because it's a very interpretable science. Like, there's a lot of the findings have been based on interpretation and not just the science. And
Yeah,
so you have a lot of these evidence that the interpretation is going to trump the science, right? Like, there's been for years and years, there's been evidence of dates of populations in North America that are 20,000 plus, and yet we held
exactly.
on to the Clovis first theory forever. That's finally being broken apart, but we're still not ready to, and by we, I mean the discipline of archaeology, they're certainly not ready to accept this. No one is diving into this. I think the implications are too big just by how many there are, how
Yes.
how much stonework there is everywhere. If you do wade into the, okay, this is pre-colonial and we don't know who they were, you're talking about a very significant culture that was of
Right.
millions of people that were here for thousands of years and spend, from up here in Quebec to Georgia. Like, it's and their primary reason to be seems to be the spiritual, because everything they make are these illogical, ceremonial, representational, uh, artwork in stone, these huge sculptures, and then the stone pathways and the infrastructures and terraces that connect them and support them. So we don't
Right.
see any evidence of their dwellings or anything that they did. They must have made those out of, degradable materials, wood and stuff. And the stuff they wanted to last forever. And I'm
Hmm.
thinking this is like, between 5 and 10,000 years old. This
Yeah.
culture was here for reasons we'll get into. Um, they wanted them to last forever. And so they were
Yeah.
built on bedrock. And so, they certainly, rock constructions like that built on bedrock can last tens of thousands of years. And so you see them perfectly intact in areas, but then you see some of their infrastructure, the roads and pathways, have been completely swallowed by the land. Like,
Right.
I'm digging it up, I'm peeling back the layers of time.
Yeah.
I'll send you some videos about that, which is fascinating. And it proves that they're very, very, very old.
Yeah. I saw some of those videos. It looks like a carpet, basically, of like, you know, layers of the forest, of the grass, of the moss that's grown over these things. And like,
That's
if you're doing rate of debris or rate of accumulation by how many years, like that's a good chunk of,
well, that's
you
right.
know, ground over them.
I'm glad you brought it up because it's something I just started to look into in the past couple of months, if you can believe it, 6 years into this. I just started realizing that around the base of all of the tall ones, and some of them are 7 feet tall,
Right.
often they're 5 feet tall, these perfect stone circles of solid rock piling and constructing.
Hmm.
Um, but then others are just sort of these perfectly oval mounds that are, as big as my living room here. 8 feet tall,
Wow.
40 feet long, 20 feet wide, an oval mound. And those ones, the oval ones, seem to be more covered by this layer you're talking about of forest carpet. And so I've just recently started looking into those ones because they're less profound, right? They're not like a
Hmm.
huge walled thing. They're a little more subtle. But I thought, what's underneath all this sort of leaves and dirt? And that's when I discovered this. It's like sod. You dig into it and you can literally start rolling it back and revealing the entire clean stonework beneath. And then I started thinking, like, I'm looking at this stuff. It's like this thick, anywhere from 2 to 6 inches. And it's
Yeah.
like a tight weave of mycelium, of earth, of like it's a really significant buildup. And I just started thinking, this has got to take a while to create itself by like what leaves falling, degrading, turning
Yeah.
to dirt, more leaves like this. So I asked AI, went on a deep dive, and went through to a bunch of sources. That stuff is minimum 600 years old to build something that thick, and
Yeah.
more likely over 1,000 years. So they're not colonial. Boom.
Right.
It's an easy way. I know there's a lot of people out here that are looking at these structures as well. Go look and go see if you can find that soil. You can date it by that, at least to be pre-colonial. And then, the next question is, well, how pre, right? And I have my theories about that as well.
Yeah, well, when we were talking about this previously, you were talking about how that was the Champlain Sea at one, like the coast of it. So, that gives you a date as well.
I mean, it's not as exact as this carpet stuff, which is
Hmm.
definitely makes them 600 years or older, but
Right,
it looks
organic. Yeah.
very, very much like this was the case. So when it quickly into looking at these things, like just here on my land, they all surrounded this one mountain. They were all at the same elevation. And I noticed that really quickly. I thought that was curious. They're not at the top, they're not at the bottom. They're kind of awkwardly built onto the side of these mountains. And that happens again and again at all the sites I've found in the area. And so I
Okay.
started thinking, it's going to have something to do with elevation, blah, blah, blah. And then I don't know when the connection happened, but it was years ago. I started thinking about this Champlain Sea that Montreal was submersed under, Ottawa was submersed under. It was a massive sea over the whole area here.
Hmm.
It went from here to Vermont, and then out to the Atlantic Ocean. Um, I thought maybe it has something to do with that, but it wasn't close enough. I was still like 20 miles away from the shore, right? And I thought, well, it's weird. They're all around here. And so if this one's on the shore, why is this one back there? And why is there another one back there? I couldn't piece it all together
Hmm.
until I got a map maker friend of mine to simulate the Champlain Sea and what this exact area was, what it looked like 10,000 years ago.
Yeah.
These were all islands. These were
Yeah.
all islands in the Champlain Sea, and I'll show you. I'll send you what that looks like because it's really amazing. And so you see, I've got 20 sites. I've in about a 20-mile radius, and it turns out every single one was on an island. Nothing is below water, and it's like this was an archipelago. So many islands in this area. And so that to me, it really points towards these people being here around then, several thousand years ago. And it points to them they're all on the shores of these islands, this great prehistoric archipelago. And
Yeah.
so, it really points to them being seafaring people. They
Yeah.
arrived by the sea and they populated all of these islands for thousands of years and lived in what would have been a beautiful, post-glacial melt, post-Younger Dryas, this ocean that lasted a few thousand years. And
Yeah.
it just blew my mind just to look at it. It's like, oh my God, yes, I knew it. I knew it. I knew that it was somewhere connected to but I didn't think they'd all be islands. And so now I go out to the islands where I haven't found them on my electric dirt bike because I can go everywhere. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I bet there's some on that island hilltop. And the past 3 times I've done it, I've found them.
Yeah, it's like think Hawaii, think how these are the tops of mountains, underwater volcanoes.
Yeah.
This is and yeah, they're obviously seafaring, populating these islands, building structures, building temples or these um worshiping or this infrastructure, whether it's a temple, whether it's a shrine, these cairns, whatever it is, but it's just amazing, to think of this. And when we were talking about this and you were talking about this sea, and I was like, it makes me start to wonder as well, like, I would bet that there's probably as well, like, you know, um, I would say probably prehistoric, like dinosaur bones, mammoth bones. I bet you would find that as well, in the area, being that this dates back far enough. Um, and then I was laughing about how the remaining um, bit of the Champlain Sea is Lake Champlain,
Hmm.
and they have their own Nessie. Um,
Right.
and I was like, I bet this whole area had megafauna
Yep.
and things left over from the Younger Dryas period, things that like were left over, before after this glacial period and in this warm up and these people moving around and migrating and building these structures. And yeah, the sea only lasts a couple thousand years. Those people probably migrated elsewhere, the whole civilization died off and it became, you know
Yeah. I would think that I mean, if they didn't perish somehow, disappear,
right,
they would have continued, beyond, they would have just continued with their building and their culture, and in the same way the indigenous that are here today, although colonial people have completely decimated their culture and
right,
genocided their most of their beautiful life. They were still here. They were here for thousands of years, and but it seems that the stone building stopped at some point, right? And it seems
right,
like that probably stopped a long time ago, based on well, certainly based on that peeling. We're into 1,000 years, but then if you look at they have retaining walls and roads and pathways and walls that you can see where time has eroded them and destroyed them to the point where, I mean, this takes thousands of years.
Yeah.
We know that a well-built stone wall can last hundreds and hundreds of years, if not thousands. But these have been, probably 80% of the roads and pathways have been swallowed by the earth. This stuff I call infrastructure, it's just being like swallowed, so only the points that were strongest enough and pinned to the bedrock enough and weren't hit by any trees, or just the lucky bits of the infrastructure and the cairns for that matter survived. But you can really tell that they've been there for, longer than hundreds of years, certainly
Right.
thousands of years.
Yeah. And the Europeans, when they came over, when they first started to colonialize, the Americas, they, when Mike and I were talking about this, that they were writing about these stone cairns and these stone mounds and cities they were finding that they thought the Native Americans had built.
Yeah.
And even then, it's like I assume, yeah, they just probably migrated further south. You say some of this goes down clear into Georgia. So, and then we have the mound builders, like we have Cahokia and Serpent Mound. And I think these people probably just migrated and continued, their existence in a different way. And the stone building
Perhaps.
was lost, or it wasn't as needed, and
Yeah, they may have evolved into very different cultures. They may have disappeared. They may have warred with other people. I mean, I think the Mississippi mound builders were different from the Ohio mound builders, which were different from the there were conical stone mound builders in Ohio, and they were burial mounds. But I think that's different from the geometric mound builders of Ohio, the Newark Octagon Serpent Mound, the Bears in Iowa, where you
right.
are.
I was just gonna say, yeah.
There were many different cultures, and some may have morphed together, some may have survived and changed, some may have killed each other off. It's so interesting to think of what that whole evolution was. But what's fascinating, there's many accounts of the settlers coming here and seeing stoneworks everywhere. And that's part of the reason it's so interesting here in this area of West Quebec. And I think we're really going to find out stuff here more than anywhere, is because it's still wilderness. Like, it's still all of these grand sites that terraform a whole mountain with terraces and pathways dotted with massive cairns everywhere. They're still intact. There's been no development here in these hills. Like it's pure wilderness. I've got 400 acres here, and there's nothing but wilderness. And there's these big chunks of land. The other thing is that, unlike New England, where the settlers had been there for hundreds of years, 300 to 400 years, this is very young. People have only been here 5 generations. So 150, 200 years. And I've met some of the old farmers who talk about their ancestors, their family, talking about Indian mounds and these stone things that were here before them. These are people we can still talk to. And these are farmers I have 2 instances here of 2 different farms about 10 miles apart, where each of the people living there now have been digging in to make a well or to make a foundation or something, and found stonework, like stone walls 2 feet deep. Right? So there's just, these are places we can go back to. These are people that are interested in them as well, and would certainly be open to an archaeological dig there. And boom, you do that. You dig up stonework 2 feet deep. You've got dates. You've got all kinds of really interesting data there to work with. So yeah, this is a really interesting place here. They're just everywhere.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's no different to me than like the whole Sage Wall and all of that. It's like these places have been preserved because they are so remote and so wilderness and so, and the megalithic things that they found in like Saskatchewan and everything, it's like it's because there's nobody there. It's empty, nobody's living there. It's similar to
Yeah.
Machu Picchu and the Cloud People. They didn't have any idea half that. They thought Machu Picchu was a singular thing, and then they start exploring the Andes and finding out that there's cairns, there's these other more ancient cities
Sure.
um
All
that
that
these
was
people.
buried. Yeah,
Yeah,
so much of
yeah.
that was completely buried,
Wilderness.
right?
Yeah,
And they peeled it back,
yeah,
basically, to reveal these incredible things, right? Because
yeah.
stuff was poking through, basically. Um, and yeah, I mean, you look on a map, and this place seems rural now, like away from everything, right? Like,
Mm.
why would you come all the way out there? But then when you fade in the Champlain Sea and see all these islands, you see this as a shoreline with, I mean, like you said, Hawaii or the Greek islands or any other archipelago that have proven in time to be very great places to settle,
Yeah,
right? And if we can take one step beyond the fact that they were seafaring people, seafaring people had very, very acute knowledge of astronomy. They
right.
had knowledge of the stars, right? So, I mean, I can't help but think that these idols, these monuments of stone, are somehow related to the stars because they're always clusters. I'll send you a few of pictures of like here I have 40 different stone monuments all around one mountain. There's
Mm.
7 on my property, mountains,
Wow.
many mountains, but they're all around one. And it's the same for all the different sites. They're clusters, So,
Wow.
I mean, another reason they're not clearing anything, they're clustering. There's like 20 big mounds per site, and then all the infrastructure between them that connects them. That's much harder to detect, but with a little peeling and good eyes, you're revealing a terraformed site, which would have taken
Right.
hundreds of people, months, if not years. And it was an organized engineering feat.
Effort. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that it that's immediately what I went to. I went to the concept of, um Hawaii and the Greek islands. If you go over into South Asia, Singapore, Java, that whole area, and same thing there. The people that have always been in those areas have built some sort of infrastructure. It's a livable area. There's plenty of food, there's plenty of everything they need to be able to have the time. They obviously weren't warring with anybody. There was plenty of food. This was a chosen effort
That's
that
it.
they chose to work together and spend their time building tribal or, religious artifacts to the stars,
Yep.
you
That's
know.
no, I love that you brought that up. They had the time.
Yeah,
They had the time. So these were a settled people. They were not nomadic. They
right.
may have been hunter gatherers, but there was just so much plentiful food. I mean, they were living on islands. They were definitely fishing. They had achieved a culture where they had headroom for worship and for
Yes.
spirituality, and that was their main thing for thousands of years.
Yeah.
It's really something. And it's funny here. Usually, like there's sea level rises everywhere, right? And so now we're looking underwater on ancient shorelines and
Yeah.
finding settlements where the sea rose. Here it's the opposite, right? Because the sea was here back 10,000 years ago, created by the glacier melt, but the sea has disappeared. So it revealed these islands. It's sort of the reverse archaeology
Yeah.
of what's going on in the rest of the world. And so you don't think to look for stuff that used to be islands, right? But it seems very clear that that's why there's so many here on all of these mountaintops and none in between, none where there was water. And I'm in my lifetime, I will not be able to see all those mountaintops, but I'm gonna try.
Right. Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, I mean, you've got nothing but time and the space to do it. And
I'm going
yeah,
out today. I've got 2 GPS points on my phone that I need to check out. One, I even
cool.
saw one. You can zoom in on Google Earth. I'll send you that too. You can see a stone pile right there, and it's right close to 2 other ones I found, but I just didn't find that third one on that one mountaintop. So you
Yeah.
can imagine it's like a treasure hunt. It's like
Yeah.
Easter eggs everywhere, but better. It's so much fun and so rewarding.
Yeah, and you had told me the story about how once you start posting this stuff and finding this, that the government was suddenly interested and
Yeah, they came
wanted
in
to.
really
Yeah.
quite quickly, actually. Like within the first year, the Ministry of Culture of Quebec, I got a phone call. Hello. And like, yeah, we've seen your videos. We want to come see your stuff. I'm like, okay, great.
Oh,
This I'd love you to. I want to protect these things. This is what I'm
yes.
looking for. And I'm like, I'm gonna film you. And they're like, no, you can't film. I said, well, no, I'm gonna film. You're on my land.
Exactly.
And so they came. They saw everything I had to show them. Didn't say much about it, and then we ended up. I was on Zoom calls with the ministry and like 5 other people for like a year and a half, almost 2 years, trying to get somewhere with it, like trying to get archaeologists here, trying to get recognition, trying to like, I want to protect them. I run an eco wilderness facility here. There's people hiking through all these things. They need to be recognized, to not only be protected, but to learn more about them. And, at the end of all of that, they kind of just said, look, they're nothing. Don't worry about it. They're nothing. We can't go further with this, but also don't touch them. And I'm like,
No.
serious? Well, I mean, I don't. I actually do
Right,
not.
right, right.
I will
I
peel
agree.
them. I will peel them for sure, and I will clear trees from them, and
Exactly.
I want
Maintaining.
present them. I want to clean them off and stuff, and I'm doing that. I'm not never moving a stone or digging into them. I don't think we have to. We've found
Right.
all throughout New England they've decimated enough to know that there's nothing in them. That's another curious data point: is that they're not burials. There's no
Mm,
artifacts in them, which makes them even more identifiable as representational spiritual monuments, sculptures, this kind of thing. So you know we don't have to dig in or destroy any of them. We just have to show the colossal effort to create this entire landscape of these stoneworks. That's what will speak to the world and speak
exactly.
loudly and instantly when it hits the right people. And you're part of that. Mike's obviously part of that. Hopefully, we'll get that little summit together in August. And
Yeah. Yeah, we're on board. We're on board. I've already
me,
marked it on my calendar and
me too.
left when I spoke to Mike, he seemed like he was down and we'll get a couple other good people together and come
That'll
through and
do it. That'll do
yeah,
it.
come
Um,
through, check it out for a few days, get some really good content of it. I think this is something people really need to see. And it like I said, it blows my mind the way like yeah, here in Iowa, they maintain, they clean up the bear mounds so people can come visit them in a national park.
right.
Same thing, Serpent Mound, these other places. To me, it's like you would think the government, um just as like a UNESCO site or a site to protect it, that the
Right.
Smithsonian, this is their type of thing that they would all over Arizona, they protect these sites, they clean
Of
them
course.
up, they try and restore
Yep.
them. So it's surprising to me. Here's what I think happened. I think you bought that land before the government could. And they were like, well, we can't make money on this. So we'll tell him that there's nothing there. Don't look at it. Don't touch it.
Yeah, but I don't think they knew about it for starters.
That
I
as
don't think
well. That as
any
well.
anyone in Canada knew about this stuff really, or very few, until I started putting it out there on YouTube. But also, it's in the government's interest to actually, when this breaks, and it will, because it's not just my land. I've found 20 sites in the area, and there's 1,000 more to find. Like this will
Exactly.
bring world attention. This could be like, not like I'm in it for tourism or the money,
Exactly.
but the government should at least recognize that in validating them and protecting them, you are opening up $1 billion tourism industry here. People will come from all over the world. I guarantee you there will be a UNESCO World Heritage Site here in this area. And so, like,
Yes.
it's really just a matter of time before that sort of slow change in mentality and the big behemoth that is government and ideology and all of that, they're going to be forced to, like, I feel proud of being one of the people forcing them to recognize just by
Yeah.
covering it.
Well, yeah, we were talking about this, kind of like with, it's the age of knowledge, it's the age of truth. Everybody has the internet. You can't lie to us the same way they used to. No different than Jimmy Corsetti blowing Gobekli Tepe wide open, these trees, and shout
Yeah,
out to him. Brilliant
yeah,
work. He saved that site because he just wasn't willing to ignore it and just kept hammering at it, making
yeah,
these videos, making the world know. And they had no choice but to admit that they were wrong and double back. And
yeah.
I think that it's going to be the same with this. And I'm obviously honored that you did the podcast, and being able to have the opportunity to come up there and view these for myself and be a part of bringing this to the world is just such an honor. And
It's
um
amazing.
yeah, I feel super blessed that we connected. And
Yeah,
um
me too. Me too. And like it just sort of proves that the internet can still be a powerful tool of the people.
absolutely.
It can what Jimmy did with Göbekli Tepe there. I was just watching the they were at this at that summit gathering where Jimmy and Mike and Graham were on a panel talking about all that. I'd heard about it before, but like, yeah, way to go, guys. The internet has power, and you share stuff, shine a light on stuff people don't want to see, and it changes things. People have to
Absolutely.
start doing stuff, and we're seeing that all over the place. So yeah, I absolutely believe that this will be one of those cases as well, and especially after August when we all gather here together and we have some good minds all being blown by this incredible stuff. It could happen quite quick, I think. I'm excited.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited for it as well. It's been something I've been thinking about ever since we connected, and I'm just
Yeah,
like,
amazing. Me too. Me too.
I'm like, this is so cool to be able to be a part of this. And just, this is something that, yeah, they should want to protect it. They should want to clean it up and preserve it, and just for the knowledge, the way
Right.
you can't find anything here in the United States without the Smithsonian swooping in, and they completely lock it down. So
Right.
it's interesting that that they're not more like, we really need to look at this and clean it up at least to see if there's anything there for real
Yeah.
that we might want to be interested in, because you never know what this could all be,
Well, I think
or what you could still find.
Well, that's it. I think there's profound insights to be gained from all of this ancient stuff, and it's part of the reason why why the establishment wants to keep it locked down. There's many examples of the established forces not wanting us to learn certain things. Their insane clampdown on hallucinogenics. From ayahuasca to the mushrooms. This
Absolutely.
they don't want us to experience that kind of knowledge. I think that these ancient things, like the rest of the ancient things in the world, were created by a people who not only were advanced astronomers and very spiritual people, but they figured out that hallucinogenic medicine was a very important part of whatever knowledge they gained from looking at the stars, right?
Yeah.
It was that ceremony. We see it in all the cultures, all the ancient cultures, all the megalithic builders. What the hell were they up to?
Yeah. What were you guys doing?
And it was important. It allowed them to live harmoniously for thousands of years, whereas give us 500 years and we fucked everything up.
Yeah, we want to know how it can be used in a militarial way.
And we've destroyed the earth, right? Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. So we haven't nurtured that connection to the stars. And part of the magic here is that I'm about to make this. We have certification for an official dark sky preserve here. So it'll be Canada's 24th dark sky park, and it may be the world's first dark sky park in the context of an ancient site.
That would be incredible.
Right? So there's a lot of aligning and synchronicity here, but I think that a lot of this sort of knowledge that's being kept from us is just bubbling to the surface. It can't be held back. It's too important, especially now in these troubled times. We need some outside help, either from our ancient ancestors or whoever, or within through these beautiful medicines. We need some help, and
absolutely,
this is part of it.
That's why they want to keep you, looking at a screen, not being able to see the stars with the light pollution. They don't want you looking up. They don't want you finding, because every one of these ancient sites, the Mayans, the Egyptians, the Greeks, in India, China, all over the world, everywhere you go, they were building to the stars. Yeah. They were building to what they knew and where they believed they came from, or their spirits were connected to. And it would be interesting to take these sites that you found and overlay a star map and see what they correlate to, because I'm sure it's the Pleiades, Sirius, Orion's Belt, all of these sites, because if they're not burials, then they're definitely in reverence to, as a reflection,
Yeah, indeed, because they are these gatherings of the cairns are very, very specifically laid out.
Right.
They really do not seem random whatsoever, and they've got to mean something. The placements have to mean something, as well as the shapes, as well as the size of rocks they choose. There's a whole language in the cairns. I see ones that sort of repeat, but they're different. But then there are so many different unique styles of these sculptures. It's a language. There's got to be tons of information in there. I've even wanted to create a whole database of the shapes, sizes, placements. Feed that into AI. I mean, if there's one,
there you go.
I mean, AI is going to find whether there's constellations that they're mimicking, or whether there's a pattern that could actually reveal some sort of a language. We're at the point now where we have a lot of tools where we can learn a lot about these things. There's just so much out there. There's so much data, and that's that's where it feeds from, is data, and there's lots of it. So
it's just we said, it's the age of truth. Things are coming out. They're not going to be able to hide things, lie, everything done in the dark comes to the light,
That's
all truth comes out to the light eventually, and these ruins wanted to be found. These structures wanted to be found, and they knew you were the guy, and here you are finding
it.
them and bringing them back to the world, because these people, it's a disservice to these people. Anytime I think of this concept of, same as Gobekli Tepe or any of these sites that they just kind of stop excavating and they decide that it's not worth their time, that they'd rather do tourism. It's like, what a disservice to these people that spent thousands of years, their
Right.
time, their intelligence, doing these things, building
And
these things, and
making them to last,
to
right?
last,
Making them to
so that you would
last.
find them.
That's right. That's right.
So that you would do what
It's
you're doing now. Yeah.
That's right. It's like the importance of this message from our ancestors cannot be
Yes.
overlooked. It's for us. Yeah, exactly.
They
Göbekli
buried
Tepe.
it for you to find. The pyramids were built that way so they would last forever, because they have a message. The Sphinx, all of these places around the world, the Mayan temples, even now they found hundreds of other sites in the jungle that the jungle has just taken over.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, they're still there. They
So,
built these things
yeah.
for us to find, to last forever, and it's a disservice to them, to
Yeah.
to our human story, to not want to fill in the pages. They talk about a missing link,
Yeah.
but it's not a missing link. It's us trying
Yeah.
to tell us ourselves who you are. Dig me up and you'll know.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well put. It's so important. It really is. And I feel I was drawn here. I was brought here, but then other people were too. Like those really great people that I've met through my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
One of the things I do here is I sell lots from 5 to 10 acre lots, just a few of them, just to create a little off-grid village here. And one of the people that moved here found me from the YouTube uh, channel, and
Wow.
so now I've got, and he's an absolute brother now, like such a kindred spirit, and now we are joining forces in, the more people the better, to like, so everyone, I've actually brought people here to live, and
Yeah,
like everyone is fascinated by it, because how can you not be as soon as you
exactly.
just see them? And so it's really like it's happening. There is a movement organically growing of people and information and power putting out to the world. It's just a matter of time before
Yeah.
uh, we get some great recognition.
Build it and they will come.
That's
You
indeed.
Yeah, you're the point, and they're building around it, it's and yeah, to have this ability, to have access to the stars in that way, and obviously these high points where they were building things. um it's it's interesting to think that, the human ideas, we always are looking at the stars anyways, and we think we come from out there, and we always want to go out. But our ancestors have already, like, they've done this. They've built. That's why we're fascinated with the stars, because we've already done it. We've built it out. We're telling you who we are.
Yeah,
Why you think that's amazing is because it's us in some way.
yeah.
um
There,
and
speaking of languages of the stone stuff, there's a language that comes down to us from the stars, and
absolutely.
I believe that their combination of ritualistic medicines while looking at the stars has a language opens up to humans
Yes.
when you do that. And I think that this would be a really great context within all of these monuments to try to become what they were doing here then. And it's funny enough, the original hallucinogen, the Amanita muscaria
Right.
mushroom, grows all throughout here.
Oh,
I have
wow. Imagine that.
so, I mean, you have stars, you have ocean, you have these monuments everywhere, and you have the medicine with which
Yeah,
to participate in the download of this great language that
that's so
modern humans,
insane.
frankly, just missed. Missed. We
Yeah,
missed it entirely, and we've gone astray. We are disconnected. We're destroying the planet rather than revering it. We're not looking at the stars. We're looking at our screens.
yeah.
We need this. We need this help. We need to return to it.
I agree. I agree. And yeah, that all of those things together, the stars, the ocean, the, the medicine to do it. It's like the what were you guys doing? It blows your mind. It makes you want to, yeah, for me, it makes me want to come and see it for myself and look at these things because anywhere I try and travel, I try and pick a place that I also can get in my enjoyment and my fascination with the ancient world. If I'm going to take a trip to Mexico, I'm going to make sure I go see the ruins
Oh, yeah,
somewhere.
yeah, yeah.
If
I,
I'm going to go somewhere, I make sure I have, because that's fun for me. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't want to go see." I'm going to go see these ruins on my vacation because that's fun for me. And
I
as
hear
just
you.
a human, I want to know as much as I can. So,
Yep. I believe it's the most important thing ever. I've been on 2 vacations in the 10 years I've lived off grid, and they were both to Louisiana and Mississippi to see the mountains.
yeah.
That's all. The only places I've flown to in 10 years are to see
Wow.
those mountains, to try to like, I need to go to Ohio next. I need to go to Göbekli Tepe. I need to go to a lot
Yes.
of places. I really want to go to Europe because I think there's all the stone circles there and cairns and stone circles. There's got to be some that might be the closest connection to this stuff. I mean,
Absolutely.
I just
That's what
want
we were saying before. We were saying, if they found this stuff in in England or
to, right,
Scotland or Ireland, anywhere in the UK, they would say these are stone circles, these are cairns, they would
absolutely.
acknowledge them. But because it's here and it doesn't fit the timeline that they want in North America, they're just like, oh, these are nothing. It's just the
Yeah,
farmers did it or the natives.
yeah, yeah. It's yeah, there's definitely agendas all over the place, and they're not so far have not been supporting the research of these things. But I know that's going to change. I just
It
know
absolutely
that
is.
it's going to change, and soon. I'm calling this year as the
Yes.
year that this
Speak
will.
it.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
do it.
I'm speaking that into existence as well. So, um,
Indeed.
yeah, Steve, tell everybody your website and where they can find you and how to find out more.
So it's LeTerrain, which means the terrain, the land. LeTerrain. This is my logo here. You'll see it everywhere. It's the pyramid and the sun or star worshiping people. I came up with this before I found them. Anyway, that's another crazy thing.
Whoa.
But
Okay.
yeah, if you go to leterrain.land, or if you just search for LeTerrain, you'll probably find my website with all the stuff that's going on here, from the village to the cairns to and yeah, one of the pages there under experiences has the ancient ruins there, and the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is Stone Research of West Quebec. But yeah, you can get to it, everything through the LeTerrain site. And yeah, I welcome people here. I mean, this is. I'm here to share. I thought I was here just to share the wilderness and protect the wilderness, but now I'm here to share these fascinating, incredible finds, and to ultimately protect them and to learn from them. So come see me.
That's what's up. This has been so awesome. And yeah, I still have so many questions and we're going to do this summit here in August. It's going to be amazing. And You guys
Yeah.
were going to come back with plenty of content. So
Indeed.
check out Steve, check out the land, find him on Instagram. I'll put all the info below. And thank you for another episode of The Last Word with Naya.
Thank you, Naya. Super fun.
One to secure the bag.